Thakur Vidya Mandir High School and Junior College welcomes all the 12th standard computer science students. We are going to continue with Unit 1, that is Introduction to 8085 microprocessor and its organization. Today we are going to learn a new concept. Firstly, let us speak about T-state. The subdivision of an operation which is performed in one clock period is called as T-state. We know what is one clock period. It is one high state and a low state. So, in one clock period, what operation is done? The subdivision of the operation which is performed in one clock period is called as T-state. Machine cycle. Machine cycle is defined as the time required to complete any operation like accessing either in output or memory, opcode fetch, which is a subpart of the instruction. So the time taken to complete a subpart of an instruction is called as machine cycle. Machine cycle consists of 3 to 6 T states. So each and every machine cycle will have minimum 3, maximum 6 T state depending upon the type of instruction. Instruction cycle. An instruction cycle is defined as the time required to complete the execution of an instruction. So, the time taken to complete the execution of one instruction, not the entire program, it is the one instruction, is called as instruction cycle. Instruction cycle consists of 1 to 5 machine cycles. So, minimum one instruction cycle consists of minimum 1 machine cycle, maximum 5 machine cycle. So, in simple words, our instruction cycle is broken down into many machine cycles. Our machine cycle is again broken down into T states. So let us see the diagrammatic representation of instruction cycle, machine cycle and T state. So here I have one high state and a low state. This high state and low state together forms one T state. Okay, that is the subdivision of the operation. A high state and a low state. The subdivision of an operation which is performed in one clock period is called as T state. One high state and one low state together forms one T state. So this I am taking as T1. Let me take the second state, which is going to be T2. The next state, which is going to be T3. So T1, T2 and T3. T1, T2 and T3 together forms one machine cycle. It depends upon the instruction. So as we learned that a machine cycle consists of 3 minimum maximum 6 T states. So my machine cycle 1 consists of 3 T states. Now let us continue with the next part. Again we have here an high and a low state, which is a T1 state. Next is high and low state, T2 state. We have high and a low state again, T3 state. And finally we have one more state, that is a T4 state. So this machine cycle consists of 4 T states, that is T1, T2, T3 and T4. So this is my machine cycle 2. So machine cycle 1 consists of 3 T states, machine cycle 2 consists of 4 T states. So machine cycle 1 and machine cycle 2 together forms your instruction cycle. Machine cycle 1 and machine cycle 2 together forms my instruction cycle. So as we know that we have learned that instruction cycle consists of 1 minimum maximum 5 machine cycle. So here in this instruction it consists of 2 machine cycle. So by this we have learned T state, machine cycle and instruction cycle with the help of a diagram. It is a very important board question. Now one more thing is related with this T state, machine cycle and instruction cycle, that is the fetch cycle. The time taken to load a piece of data from memory to CPU register is called as fetch cycle. So we know the microprocessor is the CPU of your computer. Inside the CPU we have the register, ALU and the control unit. Outside the CPU we have input, output and memory. So what is fetch cycle? It is the time taken to load a piece of data from memory, that is a peripheral, to the CPU register. It is calculated in clock ticks. The time is very small, so it is always calculated in clock ticks. So this is fetch cycle, the definition and its explanation. Now let us take one more example. This is an instruction, STA instruction. We are going to learn how our T-state, machine cycle and instruction cycle is used in this STA instruction. STA instruction we will elaborate in detail in unit 2. So again let us consider our T-state. This is my one T-state, that is T1. This is the second T-state, which is T2, the third T-state, which is T3. So we know the T-state, the subdivision of the operation performed in one clock period is T-state. So T1, T2, T3, and we have one more T-state, T4. So T1, T2, T3 and T4 together forms your one machine cycle, and this machine cycle 1 is used in STA instruction for opcode fetch. So again let me revise the definition of machine cycle. It is the time taken to complete a subpart of an instruction. Either it can be accessing an in-output or the memory or an opcode fetch. So in order to fetch an opcode for this instruction, we require 4 T-states. We have only done with the subpart of the instruction. So this is the first machine cycle. Now let us take the second machine cycle, T1, T2 and T3. This is the second machine cycle which is used to read program memory. Program memory is nothing, it is your ROM memory. So the second machine cycle consists of 3 T states. Now let's consider the third machine cycle. The third machine cycle again it consists of 3 T states which is used to read the program memory. And lastly we have the last cycle T1, T2, T3. Okay, so this is my machine cycle 4 which is used to write in the memory. The first was to fetch the opcode, second was and third was to read the data, and lastly the third was to write the data inside the memory. So again this will be in a sequence way, the timing. This is the T state which you can see the timing that is provided. It is in a sequence way which is provided by the timing and the control unit. So students, do you remember that in the previous class that we have learned that the data from the instruction decoder goes to the timing and the control unit. So we have learned in pin configuration of the oscillator. So oscillator input will be going to the timing and the control unit, and depending upon the type of operation, the required T-state machine cycle will be provided by the timing and the control unit to the processor, and then the processor will be performing its operation in microseconds. So my STA instruction consists of, in overall, how many T states we are having here students? You can see it is having 13 T states. First is 4, second machine cycle 3, then 3, 3. So here my total T states involved is how much? It is 13. Each and every machine cycle, there are 4 machine cycle. Each and every machine cycle is having either 3 or 4 T states, and this M1, M2, M3 and M4 together forms your instruction cycle. So this is an example of STA instruction where we have elaborated what is the role of your T state, machine cycle and instruction cycle. So in the paper always they have asked you to explain about T state, machine cycle and instruction cycle with the help of a diagram. Next, let us learn about in-output, memory map and IO map in-output devices. So, microprocessor is connected to various other devices such as memory and in-output. Memory and in-output is nothing students but your peripheral. There are two schemes by which these devices can be addressed. We are using two schemes in order to address the device. So firstly, when a microprocessor is connected with the other device as memory and in-output devices, it forms a microcomputer. That is, input, output and the CPU together forms your microcomputer. Sometimes to select an input device, an output device or an output device, a particular address is given as a memory location. For example, if I am using an address 0002H, it is used to select an input device like keyboard. And if for the output device, let me take the address as 0003H. So you can see here the input and the output both are having a different address. Okay, so in this address, that is 0002H and 003H, there is no information in this memory location. There will be no data, nothing will be stored in this memory location. So in other words, when these two addresses are used to select in output devices, when these two addresses are used to select the in-output devices and not for the memory location, this type of addressing is called as memory mapped in-output. This type of addressing is called as memory mapped in-output. But our microprocessor uses IO mapped in-output method. That is, the address that is appearing, for example, 0002, it can be an address of any in-output device. It can be any address of the memory location also. So we will be using separate control signals in order to bifurcate the device, or we can say in order to select the device properly. So let us elaborate about this topic, memory mapped in-output scheme. In memory mapped in-output scheme, whenever an address appearing on address bus is for an in-output device, then there is no information on the corresponding memory location. That is, as I said, if I am selecting either an input device or an output device with its address, there will be in that data, that is 0002, there will be no data or no other information on this memory location. For example, as we have explained, if 0002 is for output device and whenever this address appears on the address bus, it is used to select the output device, and in that memory location 0002H, no information regarding memory will be available, no data will be available. In other words, when an address is used to select an in-output, then that address is not used for any memory location. So in this memory location, there will be no data present in case of memory map in-output scheme. IO mapped in-output scheme, which is used by our microprocessor. In IO mapped in-output, same address is used for the in-output device as well as for memory location. Microprocessor uses IO mapped IO scheme to address the in-output devices. Using status signals, differentiation between in-output and memory is done. When it goes high, the address on the address bus will be referring in-output. When it goes low, the address will be referring your memory. We use input-output instructions in order to address the in-output devices. So in simple words, in memory map, there will be an address present for the input output device. In that address, no data will be present, no information regarding memory will be present. But in case of IO mapped in output, whenever there is an address used, for example 0002, the address will be either for the in output, and in the same address there will be memory also. So what I am going to do, I am going to use up a status signal in order to differentiate it. The various operations that are carried out are identified by using status signals S0 and S1. Students, we have explained this concept in control and here this is a table. Almost this concept we have learned in our control and the status signal, that is IO slash M bar. We know then when IO is 0, complement of that will be M bar. So M will be high. So whatever is the read write operation will be linking your memory. Similarly, when IO is 1, as per the status signal S0 and S1, the operation will be related to your in output. So this is the table which is used by our microprocessor to select either your in output device or the memory device. Let us learn the differentiation of memory mapped in output and IO mapped in output. Memory mapped in output, IO mapped in output. In output is assigned to the separate address space of memory. In output is assigned with same address of memory. Simple thing. First point is, if there is an address for input or output, no information will be there regarding memory. Here, if there is input and output, the same address will be utilized by the memory also. Separate control signals are not required. Here we require separate control signals like IO/M bar. Why we require here separate control signals? In order to select the proper peripheral, either the input output or the memory. Memory space is reduced due to insertion of IO addresses. Here you can see, students, the memory address is different, the in-output address is different. So when I am comparing my normal devices, the memory space address will be totally reduced here. Here full memory will be used because in output and the memory both occupy the same thing. So full memory address is used. Memory mapped in output, in order to address it, or we can say the devices which is using memory mapped in output always uses a 16-bit registers, and in IO mapped in output it always uses 8-bit registers. Now let us lastly discuss the features of 8085 microprocessor. So here we are going to explain these features connecting all the concepts that we have learned earlier. Intel 8085 is a 8-bit microprocessor. It has 8-bit data bus width, which indicates 1 byte of data can be passed on this bus, which is nothing the word length, which is 8-bit. 8085 chip is available in a 40-pin plastic ceramic dip package, that is dual inline package. We have already learned that in pin configuration, students. It has 16-bit address bus, that means it can address a physical memory of 64 KB. We have learned this concept in address bus, that address bus is 16-bit, so it can access till 64 KB of memory. Let me revise how we got 64. 2 power 16, that will be approximately equivalent to 64 KB. Address bus is divided into two groups. The least significant 8 bits of address are transferred on the same 8 lines of the data bus. Such bus is called as multiplexed address and data bus, that is AD0 to AD7, which is bidirectional. We multiplex to reduce the number of pins. The most significant bits of the address are transmitted on the address bus, that is A8 to A15, which are higher order address bus, and they are always kept. To select external memory or in-output devices, microprocessor uses IO map IO scheme, that is in-output system. So we know, students, just we have learned in order to select the external memory or the in-output, we are using IO mapped in-output, that we have elaborated. To communicate with external devices, microprocessor uses interrupt method. The processor requires plus 5 volt single power supply and can operate with 3 MHz single phase frequency. So we have learned this in pin configuration. A microprocessor will be requiring plus 5 volt DC power supply with respect to ground, and its operating frequency is 3 MHz. The crystal frequency is 6 MHz. So by this, let us revise what we have done in our class. We have done with the T-state, machine cycle, instruction cycle and fetch cycle, and how this are used in our instructions. Secondly, in output mapped, in output, memory mapped in output. So we have learned about these two schemes, and lastly, the features of 8085 microprocessor. Thank you, students.